Then ringed by these commercial pavilions, one of which is AT&T's. We are now being told that as many as 150 to 200 people may have been injured in this explosion. That is attributed to Associated Press. They are reporting as many as 150 to 200 people possibly injured in this explosion. We do not know the cause.
Andrea, if that's the case, that explains the amount of ambulances that have arrived on the scene. Again, there is a whole street, there's a city street that is literally lined with ambulances with their lights flashing, and they are literally waiting to get into the park area. The response, as you can imagine, with the security and such, it was immediate, it was quick, it was quite impressive. But we do see another ambulance that is leaving. But there's an entire city street here adjacent to Centennial Park that is lined with ambulances to attend to those who are injured in this explosion.
All right, we do know that security has been practicing for many months, really, for something of this nature, an emergency nature. Once again, we would stress that this is not being called a bomb. No one has said what it might have been, but it was a loud explosion which occurred without fire and without really smoke, Mark.
I'm sorry, Andrea, could you repeat that?
This explosion, I believe you said, occurred without, I know you said
yes,
there was no fire and without really any smoke either.
Yes, we were literally making our way through the park at about 1:20 Eastern to get to our location, and we literally were shaken by this explosion that occurred. We were behind the stage area. We were behind the AT&T Global Village. So we literally were within just a couple of yards from the explosion. It startled you. It certainly got your attention. As we were being evacuated from the park, I looked up and did not see any smoke. I saw what appeared to be dust at the most. And park security then ushered everyone out. It was an orderly evacuation. Everyone, though, they were pretty stunned by the occurrence.
Mark, Associated Press once again telling us 150 to 200 injured people, and I know you've told us that you're really too far away to see just how many injured there might have been, but the ambulances have been coming and going for quite some time now.
I haven't noticed the going of the ambulances, Andrea, but I certainly have noticed the coming. There's, again, a city street lined with a city block lined with ambulances getting ready to get into the park area. We do not know the crowd estimate. Again, this occurred shortly after 1:20 Eastern. The park certainly was not packed, but it had a good crowd. There was a good crowd there. There was a big crowd right in the front of the stage watching the band that was performing. So the explosion occurred in the vicinity of the stage area, so I imagine that's where the majority of injuries occurred. We can't pinpoint the location of the explosion, but it certainly does seem to be in the vicinity of the stage, and there were a good number of people in front of that stage watching the band tonight.
Mark, are you saying that you haven't seen any ambulances leaving? Nothing go screaming away from there?
With my vantage point, I can't really see the exiting of the ambulances, Andrea. I do notice that a lot have converged in the park and on the perimeter of the park. If they are leaving, they may be leaving in a location that I can't view with my eyes right now.
All right, thank you, Mark. We're going to go now to another eyewitness, and there are many eyewitnesses because, as we've told you, the park was full, as it has been every night since the Olympics began, with people who sort of use it as a place to unwind and relax after the day's events. Stephen Cutone now on the phone with us. Stephen, please, where are you from?
I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston, and you were in Centennial Olympic Park tonight?
Yep, I was observing the concert.
Who was playing?
I'm not sure the name of the band.
Jack Mack and the Heart Attacks.
Oh, Jack Mack and the Heart Attacks.
Okay, obviously a fairly intense band there. What did you see, Stephen?
Well, there was a large crowd, festive crowd, a lot of people dancing around, a lot of people just walking around, and basically there was a large explosion, almost like a sound of you would almost think it was a large bomb going off, almost like a firework explosion that you would see here on the 4th of July. And just back off the concert stage, maybe 100 yards to the left, there was a scaffolding staging there, where they would do it. Seemed like there was beaming lights onto the concert to for entertainment. And I believe that's where the bomb went off.
All right, we would like to not say that this is a bomb because we don't know that yet. I know you said it had a bomb-like sound to you, but no one has confirmed for us just what this explosion has been. Then what happened? What did you do?
Then I just grabbed the people I was with and we ran off the street, and the police directed us off the main, out of the park and onto the street, and just made way for ambulances and vehicles to approach.
How did you feel and how do you feel now?
How do I feel?
Yes.
That it could be Olympic related. Of course, there's no evidence of that. But I know that the military has played a tremendous role. 10,000 military troops are involved in the security arrangements here. Everyone from the very elite Delta Force and Navy SEALs down to National Guardsmen who have assumed roles of directing traffic and in some cases even driving vehicles. And of course, every federal agency, every federal law enforcement agency is on duty here.
But again, just
the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. So there's a tremendous presence. It's the largest security effort ever mounted for any event in the free world.
Bob, again, can you just describe for us, look around right now and give us your best description of what is occurring as we speak at Centennial Olympic Park?
Right now I'm seeing police trying to clear away barricades so that fire engines and ambulances can move through here. And I'm seeing a steady stream of ambulances trying to leave the Centennial Park area to the hospital.
Are they having difficulty leaving?
Ambulances coming in to pick up people. There are thousands of spectators standing around the fringe of the park. People are very nervous. Some are trying to leave the area, but it's total gridlock here right now. And firemen are trying to help the injured people. I can see someone now being loaded into an ambulance, but the traffic situation is very snarled. It's very chaotic. And I think that right now the emphasis is on just clearing the streets, clearing the people, and getting the emergency vehicles through.
And we want to emphasize, as you're listening to Bob Serkin speak from the scene of the explosion in nearby Centennial Olympic Park, that the images you're looking at have been on tape. We take you back now to a live shot of what's going on as more and more medical vehicles arrive on the scene and more emergency medical services go into effect. And once again, just to re-emphasize, because we can't emphasize it enough, the point that you were making earlier, Bob, in the whole Atlanta Olympic scene, this was the toughest place to secure, was it not?
Yeah, well, this and the Olympic Housing Village were considered the two toughest places. This because of the tremendous crowds gathered here from early in the morning through early or late at night, and the Olympic Housing Village, obviously because of the 10,000 athletes there and the political considerations in housing those athletes and the world political scene. The Olympic Housing Village has commanded a tremendous number of security people, and fears of the downtown expressway running alongside the village, fears that someone could possibly stop on the shoulder of that road and conduct a terrorist act. So
Bob?
That was beefed up recently, yes.
Okay, Bob, thank you very much. Stick with us. We are going to go now to more NBC personnel who are there. Brian Brown is joining us on the phone now. Brian, this is Hannah Storm. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Hannah. How are you?
Brian, where exactly are you?
I'm at Harris and Spring, Hannah.
Okay.
What they've done is they've cleared a road up Harris for all the ambulances to leave the scene.
Brian,
go ahead, Hannah.
Bob Serkin just reported.
And can get in touch with someone. Jim Bacon, a CNN producer, has talked with us earlier this morning about the explosion, and we go back to him now. He is in Centennial Olympic Park. Jim?
Yes, hi. Basically, we're about a block over. It seems to have calmed down just a little bit. But basically, we heard a tremendous boom, and we saw paper and what appeared to be shrapnel flying everywhere. At that point, everybody hit the deck, and everybody started running. And the police moved in very quickly and started a moving barricade to get the people out of the way. We've heard conflicting reports of injuries. The first report that I did hear was of a police officer that had been hit with shrapnel, but that's unconfirmed at this point. But for the most part, we just got a chaotic scene that has seemed to calm down just slightly.
The Associated Press, Jim, is reporting 150 to 200 people injured, and we are going with that now as the latest information we have. Did you see the police? Can you tell us what police were involved in this? I mean, I suppose it was everybody who was in the park.
Basically, it seemed like they were coming out of the woodwork. Of course, all the closed officers immediately took action, and then all these plainclothes officers and plain cars came in immediately and started moving the people away. They did what seems to be a very good job of keeping everyone calm, yet moving the crowd away from the scene as quickly as possible, because it was a crazy scene. You had a ton of people on the ground, and you just sort of everybody's ears were ringing, and nobody really knew what happened. I think everyone at first thought it was maybe a speaker had blown out, or maybe it was a pyrotechnic display by the band, but at this point, obviously, that's not what it is.
No, obviously not, although we are not calling it an explosion, a bomb, nor is anyone else. It is an explosion of a concussive, percussive quality. Lots of fire trucks there, but no one is talking about any fire, seeing any flames. Is that true of you also, Jim?
That's true. We have not seen any flames. All we did see was what appeared to be a tall light tower, and the bottom of it just looked like twisted metal. And it was from that point where I saw all the debris flying away following the explosion. Haven't seen any
for lighting and sound near the main concert stage at the park. Again, the explosion occurring during a concert. The tower was still standing after the blast. We have seen pictures of this tower tonight, but debris littering the base of the structure. Another witness by the name of Chris Bender said that he heard what sounded like a cannon. Quote, "I saw a bunch of smoke come up and saw particles in my eyes," end of quote. Police and other security officers swarmed through the streets trying to clear the area, forcing people away from the park. This park, again, sits right at the hub of the Olympic Games, inside what they are calling the Olympic Ring. 3 major sports arenas are adjacent to this park. Sports competition had ended when the explosion had occurred, but again, tens of thousands of people had filtered to this park. There is a picture of the tower in question. This park, at the time, packed with people. Many of them reportedly ran through the streets in tears. As Brian Brown just reported, he spoke with one eyewitness who believed that he and his wife had suffered shrapnel injuries to their legs.
And even though, excuse me, Hannah, even though Associated Press is reporting that the explosion took place at 1:15, our official sources from the police and fire department are indicating to us that it was more like 1:20 a.m. So clock it at about 50 minutes ago right now, and we've been showing you a mixture of live and tape images of the activity taking place in Centennial Olympic Park. There's a good look at the actual location of Centennial Olympic Park, and you can see that it's situated directly between the business area of downtown, which is the collection of buildings marked by gray images on the right side of the white circle there. And then over here to the left side of the white circle are the World Congress Center, which is the location of our International Broadcast Center, where we're sitting right now. You can see the Georgia Dome. There are other facilities such as the Omni, the CNN building, right here in the region to the left and just below the white circle on your screen, which is the area of Centennial Olympic Park where this explosion has taken place.
The explosion, many eyewitnesses focus on the tower. Here's another picture, a clear picture of what we call the Olympic Ring. You can see the Athletes Village at the top of the ring, right there at the center, the Centennial Olympic Park, the centerpiece of these games, a source of great pride for the organizers, a source of gathering for tens of thousands of people throughout these Olympic Games. Back to video there at Centennial Olympic Park. The scene has been described as chaos. Again, emergency vehicles, ambulances trying their best to get in and out of the area. The area has been blocked off from vehicular traffic throughout much of these games. So again, they're trying to remove barriers. There are many, many ambulances on the scene, as Bob Serkin reported, but somewhat of a gridlock problem.
Bob Serkin, one of our most experienced news journalists, who is on the scene there, and you heard him reporting on activities earlier. Obviously, he'll be endeavoring to get closer to the action as a triage is set up, and paramedics and medical officials begin to determine how to deal with the reportedly 150 to 200 people who have been injured in the blast in Centennial Olympic Park. Brian Brown reporting on the telephone from a site which you would know the location of that, Hannah.
Yes, he was actually quite close to Centennial Olympic Park. Brian mentioned ambulances coming out. One of our latest reports here says that at least 25 ambulances have already left the scene. More ambulances pulling in. Much of this attention has been focused on the tower, which was in operation during the concert. However, at least one witness says the explosion appeared to come from a garbage can. He says, I looked up, there was fire and smoke coming up. It blew them over. Some people got hit, some people didn't get hit. People were dancing, watching the concert, having a good time, and it went up, she said. I saw flames.
Of all the details we've been given, perhaps the most disturbing is that one report that the explosion may have come from a garbage can, because certainly that suggests that this was not an electrical fire or an electrical explosion or anything related to the communication system involved in the concert that was taking place there at Centennial Olympic Park, but rather than that there must have been an explosive device of some sort inside the garbage can.
And we should emphasize the tower, which has been in question, which many people felt the explosion originated at or near the tower used for lighting and sound near the main concert stage, still standing, but debris littering the base of the structure. We don't know how close the alleged trash can was to the tower, but certainly we're getting a few different reports from witnesses there, everyone agreeing that the scene is incredibly chaotic and that this was a very large blast. We have no immediate reports confirmed of any fatalities. We do know that this explosion rocked neighboring buildings. It could be heard throughout the downtown area several blocks away.
We are queuing up tape of an interview which has apparently been conducted with an eyewitness by our local affiliate WXIA-TV, Channel 11 here in Atlanta. And as soon as that tape is available, we're going to show it to you. And right now we're going to show you an interview with a cameraman who was there on the scene at Centennial Olympic Park, apparently at the time the explosion took place or shortly after. Let's see what he has to say.
We're about 10 or 20 people down. We're now getting word from the Atlanta Fire Department, a spokesman there, that as many as 150 to 200 people were hurt. And he's right in front of us here is the gentleman who shot all of that tape, Mark Field.
Mark Field,
you know, you're
Mark.
helping us get on the air. Why don't you come over here? You were standing right there. Can you tell us what you saw initially?
Colleen, about 5 minutes before the explosion, security guard came over and told us,
Colleen Williams,
we want you guys to move over here. There's a suspicious package. They're going to ask you to move. And the police were trying not to panic the crowd. They stopped traffic from walking through that area.
How far away were you when it went off?
I'm going to tell you, I was 30 to 50 feet. I felt the concussion from the explosion. One of my partners, I don't want to give his name out just in case his family's watching, was hurt. I don't know how seriously hurt he is. I felt the concussion. He was right next to me. I don't know if he blocked part of the concussion. I felt some debris hit. It was not that loud of a... It was a big bang. It was at the bottom corner of the mixed tower there, which is the lighting tower. If you remember...
It's
near the AT&T facility for the athletes to go in after their competition. We heard on the radio coming over here, and this is local radio, that one of the reporters said that he saw a chunk or a hole out of the base of one of those towers at about 16 feet. That it took part of the building out.
Well, all I can tell you...
All right. There it is, Chuck. You're right.
Paul, all I can tell you is I witnessed the explosion because we should actually have a shot of the package. I rolled on earlier.
You were shooting out there.
I was shooting out there. I was getting ready to go live with Fernell and Fritz for our 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock show. And I actually witnessed the explosion. It was a large flash bang. And I felt it. And it did not seem like that large of a bomb. However, there was a lot of shrapnel. People were down. I saw some people bleeding. Saw some people in shock.
When you talk about people down, the number we're getting is anywhere from 150 to 200 hurt. Tell us initially what you saw. How bad were the injuries that you saw as best you can?
All I could see is I saw a few people bleeding, not badly. They were moving around. My first concern was for my partner who was laying on the ground. He was not responding to me.
Okay, Mark,
all right,
if you look over here,
right
you'll
there.
see the video you shot.
It's going to be coming up in a second, Mark. And I think we should stress, too, that we do not know. These are unconfirmed reports of how...
People who are going to be crowding into such a small area, and in the event of something of this order, he said it could produce tremendous casualties. And I know that there has been...
Okay.
We're looking now once again at a live... And let's go back to Bob Serkin for more on what he's been able to gather since arriving on the scene. Bob Serkin?
Jim?
Yes, Bob.
Yes, Jim, I just spoke with Gary McConnell, and he is the chief of the state's security command post. He tells me that right now there are 15 confirmed injuries and 4 unconfirmed fatalities. And he says that the investigation is centering on a possible pipe bomb, but that is not confirmed. He says that they've got as many emergency medical people here as they could muster right now, and they're trying to sift through that area in the center of the park where this explosion occurred.
Okay, Bob, if you can stand by with us for 1 second, we're going to join now an NBC employee who is on the scene, Andrew McBride. Andrew?
Yes.
This is Hannah Storm.
Hannah. I'm here at the Inforum looking down on the accident scene. The tower looks like from the corner where the explosion took place and blew upward. It seems that most of the either fatalities or major injuries were people that were inside the tower and were blown out towards the street. The area right now is blocked off with crime tape. It's been cleared. Everything has been powered down, and all of the security and police are searching everywhere with flashlights. Tremendous amount of rescue vehicles up and down the street. They did a very quickly job of clearing everyone out of the area as soon as possible. And but it's hard to say, maybe 5 to 10 people that were down immediately in the street. You see a number of people walking around with injuries, just kind of in a daze. The blast was kind of very intense, but not large enough to seem as a large bomb. Seems like a smaller bomb that went off in the area. That's all I can say right now. It's kind of dark in the area, but you do see a lot of the security.
Andrew?
Yes.
We have to be very careful. We have no confirmed reports at this point that a bomb exploded at Centennial Olympic Park, and we want to make that very clear.
Okay.
We do know that there was a very powerful explosion. We do not know that it was a bomb.
Correct. Yes. The explosion does seem to have come from the corner, from looking down at the tower. Looks to have come from the bottom corner of the tower towards the AT&T Global Village. And,
all right. Andrew, I'll tell you what, perhaps we'll get more from you later, and we really appreciate your input. At this moment, Hannah and I are going to turn this over to Tom Brokaw and the forces of NBC News, who have arrived to cover this developing situation in Centennial Olympic Park. So, Tom Brokaw, all yours.
Thank you, Jim and Hannah. Well, based on what we know so far, Bob Serkin, who was just on the scene talking with the state officials, said they believe that there were at least 15 injured and perhaps as many as 4 fatalities. They emphasize as perhaps. We did hear as well from a cameraman shortly before that who said that he was rolling on a suspicious package at the time of the explosion. The police were quietly trying to clear people away. Bob Serkin also reporting that maybe it was, in fact, a pipe bomb. Let's go back to Bob Serkin now, who's at the site. Bob works for NBC. Bob, what else have you been able to learn from state officials?
Well, right now I don't have a very good vantage point because security people moved me away from the fringe of the park as they moved several hundred people away for safety reasons. So I'm not able to see right now. But the state command post, just to reiterate, Gary McConnell, who runs that operation, said at least 15 injured and 4 unconfirmed fatalities.
And did he think that it was a pipe bomb? We did have that cameraman earlier from KNBC in Los Angeles talking about a suspicious package of some kind of pipe bomb. Obviously, it's a very crude instrument, but it can be effective in short range.
Well, there's no confirmation of that, but when I asked McConnell if they were investigating some sort of electrical explosion, he said, well, right now it appears that it may be some sort of pipe bomb. It appears, but that's unconfirmed.
All right, are you able to, we're looking at some footage that is running raw and unedited now. There are Atlanta policemen who are on the ground, a number of other people who are injured as well. Are you able to see whether any of the ambulances have left the area yet, or the nature of the injury of the people who are being loaded into them?
I don't have a very good vantage point here, Jim. I'm inside a building and I can't see out. I'm going to have to go out and look at the scene again.
All right, thank you very much, Bob Serkin. We'll let you do that. This is Tom Brokaw from NBC News now. We just want to repeat to you what has happened here in Centennial Park, which is kind of in the center of all the traffic patterns for this now 7-day-old Olympic celebration in downtown Atlanta. At about 1:15 this morning, there was an explosion of some kind. It happened during a concert. There have been a number of injuries. State authorities now telling Bob Serkin perhaps as many as 15, and there could be some fatalities as well. As you might expect, the area has been very rapidly cleared. Ambulances are now surrounding the park. Not many of them, so far as I know, have been able to leave so far. That's the place where a lot of people have been gathering to just partake in the spirit of the Olympic celebration, if you will. Lots of different booths there. There was a concert there this evening. And this, of course, is the ultimate nightmare for not only the organizers of the Atlanta Olympics, but for the people who have been attending as well. It is not entirely unusual, if it were an explosion, for some depraved person to copycat, if you will, the idea of terrorism. But we don't know any more at this point about what, in fact, caused this explosion. Okay, we're going to show you tape now of moments after it happened in Centennial Park. These are injured people who are on the ground. A lot of this is unedited. We haven't had a chance to look at it very carefully, so just stay with us. But the ambulance brigade was on the scene instantly. The Atlanta police have been working around the clock with security agencies, not only from the state, but from the federal government and from around the country, for that matter. A lot of military personnel on the streets of Atlanta this week, too. Now we're going to see the tower at the base of which we think this explosion occurred, right there. That's where the concert was going on, and you can see a fairly substantial amount of, but confined damage, no residual damage in the outlying areas, so it could have been some kind of a crude instrument if in fact it was not an electrical transformer. That had been the initial report, but at this point we don't know. But Jerry McConnell, who runs the state command post for the state of Georgia, telling our Bob Serkin that he thinks it may have been a pipe bomb of some kind. We're going to show you now just where Centennial Park is located here in downtown Atlanta. It is in the heart of the city, not too far from the CNN headquarters and from what is called the International Broadcast Center, which is where all of us are located at NBC News and broadcasters from around the world. It was the idea of Billy Payne, the organizer of the Olympic committees, to have some place for everyone to go when they were not at the venues. Let's go to NBC's Jim Gray now. Jim?
Bob, we're out on the corner here of Williams and Techwood, and we have Officer Brown here. Officer, can you give us any information as to what's going on behind the scenes here?
Well, there's been some type of an accident, but I'm not sure what's happened, and I'm not at liberty to say. There's investigators up there now. They're trying to put everything together here, and you're going to have to wait till they come down, and they'll explain to you what's happened. But
do you have any idea how many people are hurt?
Well, there are people hurt, that's all I can say, and how bad I don't know either, but there have been some injuries, that's all I can say.
How many ambulances and police have responded?
You saw them just as well as I did. We had a bunch of ambulances. How many? I don't know any more than you do.
Were you here when the explosion went off?
Yes, I was.
What did it sound like? What was it like?
It was just a loud bang and a large bang, that's all.
Was there total chaos? There's total chaos down here now. What have you guys done to secure this area?
Well, naturally, people took off running, but that's all I can say, folks. There'll be people down here that can talk to you and tell you exactly what's going on, because I'm not certain myself.
Do you believe this area is secure right now?
Yes, it is.
And there won't be any more explosions?
Well, I can't say that. Nobody could say that. You don't know. In this world, you don't know how things can go.
What's the next step that you'll take right now?
Well, we're just securing the scene so that nothing else can happen.
Now, there's several thousand people, tens of thousands of people that are still in this area.
No, we've got all the civilians out. We've just got the area secured to let's conduct an investigation. Do you have all the injured people? They're moving anybody that was injured out.
Any idea on the injured? How many there are?
There's injured people. That's all I can say.
Do you know if anyone has died?
I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know.
Okay, officer. Well, that is the latest from the corner here, Williams and Spring Street in Techwood, just outside. We're just behind Coca-Cola City, which is a part of Centennial Olympic Park, Bob, and it is total chaos, mass pandemonium going on down here. People trying to remain calm. Some people who are just a block or two away are still carrying on as though nothing has occurred. Either they haven't gotten the information, but people are still just very close in this proximity. Tens of thousands of people are just meandering and hanging around, and of course there's a lot of curiosity seekers and people who are just trying to find out information. But the police, as we just heard from Officer Brown, who is the lead of this corner and for this street here, that they're trying to secure the area.
All right, thanks very much, Jim Gray. We just want to reiterate what we know for a fact at this point. Bob Serkin telling us that Georgia state authorities told him at the command post that perhaps as many as 15 people injured. There could have been as many as 4 fatalities, unconfirmed. We did have a cameraman who works for KNBC in Los Angeles on the air a few moments ago talking about police clearing people away from what they described as a suspicious package moments before the explosion occurred. He said, in fact, his partner was hurt in that explosion as he was rolling on it at the time. We have not been able to see that videotape as yet. Now, this area is an area where a lot of people can come and go freely. Almost every other place in Atlanta requires very stringent passes of one kind or another or an Olympic ticket. But this is the one place where they wanted everybody to gather and to be able to enjoy the festive area of this Olympic celebration. Let's go back to Jim Gray now, who has an eyewitness. Jim?
All right, Tom, I'm here with Julius Moore. He was an eyewitness. Tell us exactly what you heard, what you saw, and the time that this all occurred, Julius.
We was in the brick section 185, just enjoying.
Which is the center of the park.
Right. And we was enjoying ourselves, just having fun, and just out of nowhere, you just heard a loud noise, boom, you felt the ground shake. Then you start hearing the police hollering, get down. Then you start hearing people hollering, it's a bomb, it's a bomb. Everybody started running, chaos broke out, debris got to falling, people was hollering.
Did it knock you down?
No, it didn't knock me down. No, I was like shocked. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was. And
how close were you to it?
I felt the ground shake. I felt it like vibrate.
Could you see people injured?
Not injured, but I seen people falling. I heard people hollering.
Do you have any idea, what did the police do at that time? Do you have any idea how many people are injured back in there?
Easily 20 to 30 people, easily.
What was your reaction? Did you think it was a bomb? Did you think it was a transformer? Did you think it was a firecracker? What did you think it was at that moment?
I had no idea. It's like my mind I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I don't know. I just went blank. I couldn't believe it.
What was going on in the park at that time? Was it a joyous celebration?
Music, people dancing, people enjoying themselves, having fun, enjoying the Olympics, enjoying the music, having a good time.
Julius Moore, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Tom, an eyewitness here giving his account. Back to you, Tom. Right here. As of now, the police have totally closed off the entire section of downtown and are asking everybody to please that are in this area go back to their hotels or to go back into their residences to avoid this area. Unfortunately, for some people right now, they can't get back to their hotels or back to their homes because this entire section of downtown has been cordoned off. Now, I'm a resident of Atlanta, and what this basically has done is this has shut off all of the city it has shut off almost entirely the city. This is right here is the intersection where 75 and 85 exit and come into downtown. That ramp was already closed. What it has done is it has created not only a traffic snarl on the roads, but it is all of this massive humanity has nowhere to go. They cannot get home and they cannot get into downtown. And you wonder if it's not a dangerous situation because these people have no place to go and are being told by the police they can't get where they need to be. Tom?
All right, thanks, Jim Gray. As we repeat to you once again, there has been an explosion, the nature of which is unconfirmed at this hour. It happened between 1 and 1:30 this morning in Atlanta in a place called Centennial Park during a concert. It does now appear that more than a dozen people were injured. There have been some reports that there were as many as 4 fatalities, again unconfirmed. But Bob Serkin, who works for NBC, was there talking with Georgia state authorities. This is where it happened, right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. The Centennial Park was created for the Olympic celebration. It's been going on for about a week now, and people plainly have put the idea of any kind of terrorist attack out of their minds because things have been going so smoothly and they've been having such a good time here. But tonight, all that changed in a heartbeat. We're going to play for you now a recording of the explosion as you look at this map. This is how it sounded.
Chamber of Commerce building, and you'll hear what we heard. It's Cawthon. He's the guy that Joe Frazier has worked with in Philadelphia. Barely advanced rock fight. Only an opponent in the second round. Cawthon hung on for a 10-9.
Obviously, that was our affiliate or station in Columbus, Ohio, was doing a report probably back to its local station when the explosion occurred. You could hear that it was relatively confined. A lot of people were describing it as a concussion explosion of some kind or another. The initial report said it might have been an electrical transformer. But we now know that police were trying to clear some people out of that area because they discovered what they described as a suspicious package at the bottom of a large tower in the middle of Centennial Park. Once again, you're looking now at a videotape of people who were injured in the explosion. Most of these injuries right now appear to be superficial. We have seen Atlanta City Police down on the ground as well. Obviously, the injured are suffering not only from physical wounds, but there is the psychological shock of what has happened to them as well. Atlanta had secured this area less well, I suppose, than they had most of the Olympic venues, because this was the place where people were be able to come and congregate and buy things and trade pins and enjoy the Olympic Games, whether or not they had a ticket for any of the events. And then tonight, all that has changed. You heard Jim Gray say the area now has been absolutely secured, shut down to the point that people who are trapped there cannot get out of the area and may not be able to get back to their hotels easily. We hope that they'll be able to get that corrected before too long. Jim Gray?
All right, thank you, Tom. Jim Stave was another eyewitness. He's from Marietta, Georgia. He happened to be, by his account, 300 yards away from this explosion. Can you please tell me exactly what you heard, what it felt like, and when it occurred?
Well, it occurred, I would say, right now, probably an hour and 15 minutes ago. And we were standing right at the entrance to Centennial Olympic Park. And
when you say right at the entrance, by the Omni Hotel in the CNN Center?
No, right at the main entrance to the Olympic Park. And the Swatch venue that they have set up inside,
which is right behind the street, right behind us here.
Which is on the street right behind you. Something came off, it looked like it came off of that stage. My first reaction that it was an electric, shut up, Brian, that it was an electrical explosion, and that it came through the back of the Swatch. There is a hole in the Swatch building, and it came through the back of the Swatch and out onto the street right across from where Fat Tuesdays is set up.
Now, did all of that building or the shrapnel from that building start flying?
There was debris that hit people on the street. They were the ones that are most badly injured from what I could see.
Were you knocked down?
No.
You saw some people in there injured?
I saw both people inside, on front of the Swatch stage, down, with police around them. They were injured, but the people that got the shrapnel or the debris from the bomb were outside of the park on the main street.
On this street right here, on William Street?
On William Street, right.
And do you have any idea the numbers of people that you saw go down and injured, if you could guesstimate for us?
I've heard anything from 10, I've heard 12.
Don't tell us what you heard. What did you see?
I heard one. I saw
one?
I personally saw one. Right.
And what was the scene after that? Pandemonium? Chaos?
No, the first scene was...
The medical examiner's office, we've been telling you this throughout the evening, this is a little more confirmation of it now, has been told by the bomb squad that 4 people had been killed. About 150 to 200 people were injured, and that all happened at 1:15 this morning, which is something less than 2 hours ago now, about an hour and 45 minutes ago. Everyone's saying from...
Live from CNN Center, this is Headline News with Gordon Graham.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Our top story is still developing at this hour. Police and emergency crews are at the site of an explosion at the Centennial Olympic Park in downtown Atlanta. The explosion occurred about 1:20 a.m. Eastern Time near a stage where thousands of people were watching an outdoor concert. The Associated Press quotes rescue officials as saying 4 people were killed, but that has not been confirmed. Police have cleared the park of visitors and are conducting their investigation. German television was interviewing American swimmer Janet Evans when the explosion was heard. The park is located near several different Olympic venues and has become the gathering point for tens of thousands of visitors to the Summer Games. The cause of the explosion is unknown at this time, but a member of the band that was on stage at the time of the blast tells CNN a sound man found a suspicious package near a light tower and alerted police. He says police then cleared people before the apparent bomb went off.
He's with the police right now. Saw a paper bag. You didn't see who placed it, but it was put in front of the mixing, what do you call that, tower? The mixing tower, where they mix the sound and control the lights. It was put down in front of that. He went out and he looked in it, and it looked like a bomb, so somebody called the police. They cleared all the people away from that area, and the police came out, and, you know, it's just really lucky that it was seen and people were cleared from that tower, because there were quite a few people out there. I have to say one thing about 150 to 200 people. I did stand on stage after the bomb went off, and I looked out to see if I could see injured people, and I don't want to speculate, because obviously I left quickly, but I didn't get the feeling that 150 to 200 people were injured. But
well, what were your impressions then as you looked out at the tower?
Well, I looked out, and I didn't really see that many people down.
Pete, I felt the concussion from the explosion. One of my partners, I don't want to give his name out just in case his family's watching, was hurt. I don't know how seriously hurt he is. I felt the concussion. He was right next to me. I don't know if he blocked part of the concussion. I felt some debris hit. It was not that loud of a... It was a big bang. It was at the bottom corner of the mixed tower there, which is the lighting tower. If you remember...
it's near the AT&T facility for the athletes to go in after their competition. We heard on the radio coming over here, and this is local radio, that one of the reporters said that he saw a chunk or a hole out of the base of one of those towers at about 16 feet. Well, that it took part of the building out.
Well, all I can tell you...
All right. There it is, Chuck. You're right.
Paul, all I can tell you is I witnessed the explosion because we should actually have a shot of the package. I rolled on earlier.
You were shooting out there.
I was shooting out there. I was getting ready to go live with Fernell and Fritz for our 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock show. And I actually witnessed the explosion. It was a large flash bang, and I felt it, and it did not seem like that large of a bomb. However, there was a lot of shrapnel. People were down. I saw some people bleeding, saw some people in shock.
When you talk about people down, the number we're getting is anywhere from 150 to 200 hurt. Tell us initially what you saw. How bad were the injuries that you saw as best you can?
All I could see is I saw a few people bleeding, not badly. They were moving around. My first concern was for my partner who was laying on the ground. He was not responding to me.
Okay, Mark,
all right, there it is right there.
The video you shot.
It's going to be coming up in a second, Mark. And I think we should stress, too, that we do not know. These are unconfirmed reports of how...
People who are going to be crowding into such a small area.
We're looking at the area where the fire department and the police department and a lot of ambulances have moved into to bring you up to date. There was an explosion at 1:15 this morning. The FBI is now confirming that it was an explosive device of some kind. We have believed that for the past hour or so based on all the eyewitness accounts. In the 1990s, it is the curse of our time. These bombs, large and small, that are placed in the heart of areas where innocent civilians are gathered. That's the tower that you see in the background. We think it occurred at the base of that tower, which overlooks Centennial Park. Cameramen and other technicians were on the tower at the time, and a lot of people were gathered around the base of it when the explosion went off. The FBI now confirming that it was an explosive device. This was not an accident. It does appear that it was a deliberate attempt to cause great injury here, and it has done that, and it probably has killed at least 4 people. I say probably because we've not been able to get confirmation of fatalities yet. Gary McConnell from the state of Georgia, who was one of the law enforcement officials on the scene, told our Bob Serkin earlier that, in fact, he believed that there were 4 dead. The bomb squad is told at least 1 morgue to expect 4 bodies as well. We keep going back to this map so that you can see what we're talking about. Ground Zero, it's in the heart of Atlanta. It's at the heart of the games. It's the heart of the celebration that has been going on here for the past 7 days now. And if it turns out to be a bomb, which we now have every reason to believe it is, the question is why, who did it? Was it connected to any other events going on around the world? They have had some difficulties in the past in the state of Georgia with homegrown militia, people who were building bomb factories in the southern part of the state, several of whom were arrested about 6 months ago. So they've had some experience with that here. I don't know of any other experiences that they've had in Atlanta with pipe bombs in the heart of the city, as I say, but that's what it appears to be tonight, some kind of an explosive device, probably pretty crude. There was a package at the base of the tower that police were suspicious of shortly before.
You got it going?
Example of, that's a pretty stunning example of just exactly what happened. That is a videotape account taken by German television. They were interviewing Janet Evans. You could see that she got out of there very swiftly. The rock concert was going on in the background. We're going to take one more look at it right now. Janet Evans being interviewed by German television.
Bothering her all the time. I didn't want to be another person.
And nobody's bothering you, right?
Well,
get out there. Get out there. You got it going? You got it going? Yeah. Okay, meine Damen und Herren, es ist gerade, wir sind in Atlanta, es ist gerade ein schrecklicher Schall, eine schreckliche
German
Bombe.
television switching very easily from English to his native German language as he begins to broadcast back to his native country about what happened here on his camera tonight in downtown Atlanta. There was an explosion at Centennial Park during a rock concert. It does now appear that it was some kind of a crude bomb, the FBI saying it was an explosive device. A lot of people were injured. We can't say how many at this time for sure, but at least 3 hospitals have begun to receive people who were hurt, some critically. We think that there were probably at least 4 fatalities. That was the early but unconfirmed report. That happened now a little more than 2 hours ago here in Atlanta as a rock concert was playing in a place where a lot of people gather simply to have a good time, to party, to meet with each other, to partake, if you will, of the festivities of the Atlanta Games, even if they can't get to any of the events. One of our cameramen, actually 2 of our cameramen, one from NBC and one from KNBC in Los Angeles, were told by authorities shortly before the explosion that they had a bomb threat. In fact, one of the cameramen, Mark Field of KNBC in Los Angeles, was able to get videotape of what was described as a suspicious package at the base of it. Let's go now to the mayor of the city, Bill Campbell. This is his worst nightmare. Mr. Mayor, this is Tom Brokaw.
Yes, good evening. How are you, Tom?
I'm well, thank you. We need some...
Robert, now tell us again what your camera is pointing. Let's look in the right hand. There's a several-story high structure right there.
Right. Now it appeared to be somewhat somewhat west of that on the street there. It occurred near a fountain that they had, or not a fountain, I'm sorry, a statue that they had erected somewhere there. The police cars, when they actually pulled in just about street level, so it either occurred probably either on the sidewalk or right next to the sidewalk.
Yeah, we can see the flashing lights. Was it a ground level explosion? Could you tell that?
It seemed to be. The way the ground shook. At first I thought someone had set off a quarter stick of dynamite, maybe a stick of dynamite. It seemed larger than that. The ground really shook beneath us. Some of the people that I run into said that they were blown backwards. People who were close to the explosion.
They said they were blown backwards. Right. This is the first chance that we have had through these pictures to get a look at this explosion, which took place about 1:20 this morning Eastern Time, right in Centennial Park, in the heart of the area where the Olympic venues are located. Of course, there are no athletic events taking place this late at night, this wee hours of the morning, but there were still many, many people around, people talking to one another, people eating, listening to the entertainment. So as you can see, this is, even though it was 1:20 in the morning, this is still a very, very lively and full group of people.
It didn't look like the crowd was thinning out. The band was playing, everyone was dancing at the time. People were still running through the fountains and all that. It probably would have gone well past 2 o'clock, you know, past closing time. if the bomb hadn't gone off.
You can see, I think some of the earlier reports were conflicting. Some people said it was a big explosion. Others said, well, maybe it was just, it sounded like it almost could have been part of the performance. But clearly, from the sound of what we've seen from your videotape, that was there was something very much out of the ordinary there.
Yes. At first, I thought perhaps it was something that the band was going to surprise us with, something that was a surprise of some sort, maybe closing time, something like that. I hadn't been there at that time of night, but it became rather apparent with all the police running that direction that something was going on.
And it was so much louder than anything else that was taking place.
And that it shook the ground as it did. I was thinking that car windows must have been broken in the vicinity. So the number of police that converged on the area were quite a few in the next 1 or 2 minutes.
All right, again, we're talking to Robert G., who is... These are the first pictures we have of the actual explosion from what we are now being told by law enforcement officials in the city of Atlanta they do believe was a bomb. I don't think, frankly, based on what we just saw, that there can be any doubt that something was put there to explode and put there with the intention of hurting people. Once again, CNN has been told, talking to law enforcement officials here in the city of Atlanta, that they are confirming at least 1 death, and they are confirming at least 38 people injured. And it's important that we get these numbers out because earlier we were saying, quoting various sources as saying several hundred people may have been injured. At one point, it had been reported that perhaps as many as 4 people had died. Right now, the report from, or rather the word from officials here in Atlanta is that it is 1 death that they can confirm at this point, 38 injured. They do believe it was a bomb. We also want to say that now that number has just been updated. We've just been told by Charlie Caudill, who is one of CNN's producers, that 65 is now the number injured. And a moment ago, we were saying it was 38, so that number has continued to climb. We are told by security forces with the Olympics that they will be holding a news conference at 3:45 a.m. Eastern. CNN is attempting to bring that news conference to you live when it happens. We are attempting to get the technical people there and the equipment that we need to get that to you on the air. Now, Robert G., once again, we want to say you're an engineer, you're from San Francisco. You weren't there in any official capacity. You were there as a tourist.
Strictly as a tourist, right.
And the camera was rolling, and it was a very a typical scene, people enjoying the music. And then let's look once again at what you saw. And you can tell us. Here we go. Let's listen right here.
Just before this, I was actually filming people dancing in the crowd there, which is why I was covering it at such a low angle. The explosion went off, and I just automatically turned the camera that direction. I realized people started to run past me. Some policemen had seemed to have gone running by a couple of minutes earlier, but I'm not sure if they were handling some other disturbance in the crowd.
Robert, let me just interrupt you to say that state and federal authorities, that is Georgia and U.S. authorities, are saying they now believe that it was a pipe bomb that exploded. And indeed, one of the gentlemen we interviewed just a little while ago, who's with the Prince George's County, Maryland Fire Department Bomb Squad, said that based on what he heard and what he saw, it did appear to be a bomb. This is someone who has an experience, a good deal of experience working with these sort of devices. But again, this is the official word from state and federal authorities, Georgia and U.S. authorities now saying they believe that it was a pipe bomb. This information is coming into CNN in bits and pieces. We're trying to bring it to you in the audience as soon as we can. But of course, we always want to be as absolutely accurate as we possibly can be. Sometimes we have to bring you incomplete information. We don't have the whole story, but when we have those official numbers, we bring them to you just as fast as we can. Robert G., you told me a moment ago you're from San Francisco. You are an engineer with Motorola. And what were you doing earlier tonight?
We were just hitting the different venues, trying to catch everything on our last night in the Atlanta area. Nothing particularly exciting, just all personal vacation stuff. So.
And then at some point you wandered near the Centennial Park.
We were actually there for about 10 or 15 minutes. We figured we'd spend the rest of the night there. Seemed like a good place. People were having fun. You know, nothing seemed to be slowing down at that time. So.
And you got the pictures of the explosion. After it happened, did you see people being carried away?
No. The police evacuated us within about 3 or 4 minutes. They ran by us within 1 or 2 minutes. And I believe about 5 minutes after, we were already outside the park, being barricaded outside. We saw 10 or 15 ambulances probably drive by on the east side of the park where I was standing.
All right, Robert G. has been talking with us, tourist visiting the Olympics here. He's from San Francisco. We thank you very much, and we're going to ask you to stand by because we may want to come back and talk to you a little bit later. Andrea Zinga is also with us. She's here in the studio. And Andrea, you've got some other eyewitnesses there.
Judy Doretli Arango is a production assistant with CNN, and just like Robert, she was there tonight. And your feeling right now, Doretli, is?
I'm completely scared. I don't want to walk by myself anymore. I don't want to go downtown. I don't want to be by myself.
Well, we hope you get past that and it changes for you. But you said you're glad to be alive.
100%. I feel like I was so close. You know, I was maybe 3-4 minutes away from dying. I don't want to be by myself.
Well, we hope you get past that and it changes for you. But you said you're glad to be alive.
100%. I feel like I was so close. You know, I was maybe 3-4 minutes away from dying, from being right there. You know, I felt that explosion. My whole chest caved in, you know. And my first thought was, oh my God, what happened? We just left friends right there, and I thought my friend was dead. I really thought the people I had just left were dead.
So tell us what happened. You had been listening to the concert?
We had been listening to the concert. We were walking around the park, and we were waiting for a friend, and we ran into a few other people, and we were talking, and we were, you know, right by the AT&T structure, and, you know, we just were talking, and we started walking away, and the next thing we knew, just there was humongous, you know, shock through the ground and explosion, and I mean, we all screamed and jumped, and the people around us, like, people like ducked down, and, you know.
And you saw the smoke.
I saw the smoke. We turned around right away, and we were ready to run back to see if our friend was there.
How did you know that your friend was okay?
By coming here, and running into him. And we were all ready to call each other. We had a cell phone. I mean, trying to just see that everybody was okay.
Did you see anything other than the explosion? Did you see blood? Did you see victims?
I just saw people run. That's all I saw. I saw people just hold themselves as soon as that explosion went off and just run. Just people look around, stunned, and run.
Had you been down to Centennial Olympic Park before tonight?
I've been down this entire week, every single day.
And what was the mood? What was the feeling for people who have not been to the Olympics and don't know what this park is about?
It's completely fun and happy and peaceful.
I also want to compliment the medical personnel at all the hospitals, those who were operating the ambulances, they and the volunteers who were helping people who were down at the scene. Those of us who watched it throughout the night last night could not have been failed to be impressed by their courage, their confidence, their real heroism under pressure. Last night I was awakened by Mr. Panetta shortly after the explosion, and I continued to receive reports and follow events until the press conference early this morning. Then this morning the Vice President and I spoke to the President of the International Olympic Committee, the President of the Atlanta Committee for the Games, the Governor of Georgia, the Mayor of Atlanta, the Attorney General, and the Director of the FBI. I want to make clear our common determination. We will spare no effort to find out who was responsible for this murderous act. We will track them down. We will bring them to justice. we will see that they are punished. In the meanwhile, we are all agreed the games will go on. We will take every necessary step to protect the athletes and those who are attending the games. I know that the people who've worked so hard to put on these Olympics, the people of Atlanta, the thousands and thousands of volunteers, are more determined than ever to see them to a successful conclusion. Already we see the spirit at work this morning. The mayor spoke about the significant numbers of people in the streets in Atlanta. President Samaranch reported to me on the events that are already taking place and said there were large crowds of spectators at them and that the people were clearly determined to go forward and attend the game and follow them. Let me say finally that an act of vicious terror like this is clearly directed at the spirit of our own democracy. It seeks to rip also at the spirit of the Olympics. We are doing everything in our power to prevent these attacks. There's been an enormous effort made to establish security at the sites of all the events. At the park itself, the investigation will continue today, and then there will be additional security measures taken there. But we must not let these attacks stop us from going forward. We cannot let terror win. That is not the American way. The Olympics will continue. The games will go on. The Olympic spirit will prevail. We must be firm in this. We cannot be intimidated by acts of terror. Thank you very much.
Do you think this reflects on the United States in terms of its ability to protect the people?
Well, actually, I believe, first of all, that everyone says, including all the people who have participated in the Olympics for decades, that this is the best and most extensive security effort ever undertaken at all the events. I think they would all say that there was more concern about the Olympic Park than any other place because it was thought that there had to be some place where the general public could congregate. People who did not have tickets to the games but were there in town, wanted to participate, wanted a place where they could go and swap the pins and do all the things that they can do, and they wanted to make some entertainment available to the public for free. Now, I would point out that even there, a place that was more open, someone spotted that suspicious package last night and alerted the bomb squad and helped to clear the area and dramatically minimize the loss that would otherwise have occurred. So they are looking now at what else can be done to secure that particular area when it can be reopened after the investigation has been completed.
Would you support the death penalty for whoever is found to have done this?
Well, I support the death penalty for terrorism that leads to murder. I always have, and we if you look at what we did in the crime bill, you know that. I believe that people who deliberately kill other people, particularly under circumstances demonstrating this kind of cowardice and designed to intimidate and cower large numbers of others, deserve capital punishment. I certainly do.
Mr. President, can you definitively eliminate the possibility of any type of attack at the Olympic Games?
I don't think anyone has ever been in a position to definitively eliminate an attack anywhere in America, or any place in the world. But I can say this, I will say what I've said before. If you talk to anybody associated with these Olympics, they will tell you that the security effort is the most extensive ever made. And if you talk to anyone involved in American law enforcement, where there are many different agencies at different levels of government, I think they will tell you this is by far the best coordinated effort that has ever been made. And let me say again, as much as I grieve that this incident occurred at all, I want to reiterate the fact that people on the spot there were alert enough to see this package, to call the bomb squad, to clear people out, and to save a lot of lives. As much as we grieve for the injuries that were there, I think that is important. And so I would say that they have done as good a job as could be done, particularly at the events. They were always concerned about any open area where you have so many people operating in an open area. And they are examining what can be done, what should be done there during this period when the criminal investigation is going on.
Mr. President,
yes.
Chelsea has been at the Olympics all this past week. Speaking as a father, what is your own personal reaction to this? Would you not feel some sense of anger that more might have been done to prevent this tragedy? But what is your first personal reaction to this?
Well, my first personal reaction was, I thought about it last night, of course, because she was in the park quite often and visited the pen exchange place there. And I was, my first personal reaction was that I hope nobody else's children get hurt down there. But I would say to you that these people have done a very good job planning and bringing off this Olympics. And I don't think anyone believes that we live in a risk-free world. And I think it's important not to jump to any conclusions about who did or didn't do what here. We'll look into this and we will find who's responsible. But on balance, I still would say to you, I feel good about the efforts they have made there. They have worked very, very hard. And we just have to keep working, and they are examining even as we speak. You know, the Vice President's been heavily involved in this, and we talked about it the last night when he and I both were awakened, and then we had a visit. We talked about it again this morning. They're examining, even as we speak, whether there is some way to increase the security at the Centennial Park and still make it a place where a larger number of people who cannot either obtain or could not afford tickets to the events themselves can come and go. Everyone always knew that was the most open and most vulnerable place. Thank you.
Any clues as to who did it, Mr. President?
President Clinton addressing reporters from the White House this morning at a time normally reserved for his routine radio address, calling the event an evil act of terror aimed at innocent people, which stands in stark contrast to the courage of the Olympic athletes. He was offering his condolences, of course, to those who were killed, as well as his prayers to those who were injured. And he also took note of the people who were able to identify the bag which contained the pipe bombs, apparently, allowing the area to be cleared off and thus preventing a much greater loss of life, according to President Clinton. Let's go back to Jill Doherty, who was in the briefing room at the time of the briefing. Jill, what are your impressions?
Well, I think, number one, Miles, the president saying that the Olympics, the Games will go on, continuing to say that that will continue, but also saying that every effort that has been made at this Olympics to deal with any type of eventuality like this has been made. He did say that we must not let terror win, and also said that the efforts here, it was the most extensive security effort ever.
There's a big difference today. That's why advertisers are switching to TV for the 90s. Cable TV reaches your customers in your area of town. Cable TV. It's effective, efficient, and above all, affordable.
To advertise on cable, call 895-2484. The eye of the beholder decides what is beauty and what is art. Your eyes are invited to make a decision at the Museum of Fine Arts this month, featuring Crimes and Splendor, The Desert Cantos of Richard Mizrak, through August 25th. For more information, dial 639-7300. The Museum of Fine Arts, a sight to behold.
James Bond is back on cable. Britain's Master Spy infiltrates Wednesdays in July on TBS. 8 of Bond's best. 007 is your number for the action, the villains, the women, and the hottest secret agent around. Cable, for your eyes only.
Warner Cable. Better TV, getting better every day.
Then ringed by these commercial pavilions, one of which is AT&T's. We are now being told that as many as 150 to 200 people may have been injured in this explosion. That is attributed to Associated Press. They are reporting as many as 150 to 200 people possibly injured in this explosion. We do not know the cause.
Andrea, if that's the case, that explains the amount of ambulances that have arrived on the scene. Again, there is a whole street, there's a city street that is literally lined with ambulances with their lights flashing, and they are literally waiting to get into the park area. The response, as you can imagine, with the security and such, it was immediate, it was quick, it was quite impressive. but we do see another ambulance that is leaving. But there's an entire city street here adjacent to Centennial Park that is lined with ambulances to attend to those who are injured in this explosion.
All right, we do know that security has been practicing for many months, really, for something of this nature, an emergency nature. Once again, we would stress that this is not being called a bomb. No one has said what it might have been, but it was a loud explosion which occurred without fire and without really smoke, Mark.
I'm sorry, Andrea, could you repeat that?
This explosion, I believe you said, occurred without, I know you said
Yes.
there was no fire and without really any smoke either.
Yes, we were literally making our way through the park at about 1:20 Eastern to get to our location, and we literally were shaken by this explosion that occurred. We were behind the stage area. We were behind the AT&T Global Village, so we literally were within.
And more emergency medical services go into effect. And once again, just to re-emphasize, because we can't emphasize it enough, the point that you were making earlier, Bob, in the whole Atlanta Olympic scene, this was the toughest place to secure, was it not?
Yeah, well, this and the Olympic Housing Village were considered the two toughest places. This because of the tremendous crowds gathered here from early in the morning through early or late at night, and the Olympic Housing Village, obviously because of the 10,000 athletes there, and the political considerations in housing those athletes, and the world political scene. The Olympic Housing Village has commanded a tremendous number of security people, and fears of the downtown expressway running alongside the village, fears that someone could possibly stop on the shoulder of that road and conduct a terrorist act. So
Bob?
That was beefed up recently, yes.
Okay, Bob, thank you very much. Stick with us. We are going to go now to more NBC personnel who are there. Brian Brown is joining us on the phone now. Brian, this is Hannah Storm. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Hannah. How are you?
Brian, where exactly are you?
I'm at Harris and Spring, Hannah.
Okay.
What they've done is they've cleared a road up Harris for all the ambulances to leave the scene.
Brian,
go ahead, Hannah.
Bob Serkin just reported.
Can get in touch with someone. Jim Bacon, a CNN producer, has talked with us earlier this morning about the explosion, and we go back to him now. He is in Centennial Olympic Park. Jim?
Yes, hi. Basically, we're about a block over. It seems to have calmed down just a little bit. But basically, we heard a tremendous boom, and we saw paper and what appeared to be shrapnel flying everywhere.
Down to National Guardsmen who have assumed roles of directing traffic and, in some cases, even driving vehicles. And, of course, every federal agency, every federal law enforcement agency is on duty here.
But again, just
the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. So there's a tremendous presence. It's the largest security effort ever mounted for any event in the free world.
Bob, again, can you just describe for us, look around right now and give us your best description of what is occurring as we speak at Centennial Olympic Park?
Right now I'm seeing police trying to clear away barricades so that fire engines and ambulances can move through here. And I'm seeing a steady stream of ambulances trying to leave the Centennial Park area to the hospital.
Are they having difficulty leaving?
More ambulances coming in to pick up people. There are thousands of spectators standing around the fringe of the park. People are very nervous. Some are trying to leave the area, but it's total gridlock here right now. And firemen are trying to help the injured people. I can see someone now being loaded into an ambulance, but the traffic situation is very snarled. It's very chaotic, and I think that right now the emphasis is on just clearing the streets, clearing the people, and getting the emergency vehicles through.
And we want to emphasize, as you're listening to Bob Serkin speak from the scene of the explosion in nearby Centennial Olympic Park, that the images you're looking at have been on tape. We take you back now to a live shot of what's going on as more and more medical vehicles arrive on the scene.
Just a couple of yards from the explosion, it startled you. It certainly got your attention. As we were being evacuated from the park, I looked up and did not see any smoke. I saw what appeared to be dust at the most, and park security then ushered everyone out. It was an orderly evacuation. Everyone, though, they were pretty stunned by the occurrence.
Mark, Associated Press once again telling us 150 to 200 injured people, and I know you've told us that you're really too far away to see just how many injured there might have been, but the ambulances have been coming and going for quite some time now.
I haven't noticed the going of the ambulances, Andrea, but I certainly have noticed the coming. There's, again, a city street lined with a city block lined with ambulances getting ready to get into the park area. We do not know the crowd estimate. Again, this occurred shortly after 1:20 Eastern. The park certainly was not packed, but it had a good crowd. There was a good crowd there. There was a big crowd right in the front of the stage watching the band that was performing. So the explosion occurred in the vicinity of the stage area, so I imagine that's where the majority of injuries occurred. We can't pinpoint the location of the explosion, but it certainly does seem to be in the vicinity of the stage, and there were a good number of people in front of that stage watching the band tonight.
Mark, are you saying that you haven't seen any ambulances leaving? Nothing goes screaming away from there?
With my vantage point, I can't really see the exiting of the ambulances, Andrea. I do notice that a lot have converged in the park and on the perimeter of the park. If they are leaving, they may be leaving in a location that I can't view with my eyes right now.
All right, thank you, Mark. We're going to go now to another eyewitness, and there are many eyewitnesses because, as we've told you, the park was full, as it has been every night since the Olympics began, with people who sort of use it as a place to unwind and relax after the day's events. Stephen Cutone now on the phone with us. Stephen, please, where are you from?
I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston, and you were in Centennial Olympic Park tonight?
Yep, I was observing the concert.
Who was playing?
I'm not sure the name of the band.
Jack Mack and the Heart Attack.
Oh, Jack Mack and the Heart Attack.
Okay, obviously a fairly intense band there. What did you see, Stephen?
Well, there was a large crowd, festive crowd, a lot of people dancing around, a lot of people just walking around, and basically there was a large explosion, almost like a sound of you would almost think it was a large bomb going off, almost like a firework explosion that you would see here on the 4th of July. And just back off the concert stage, maybe 100 yards to the left, there was a scaffolding staging there, where they would do it seemed like there was beaming lights onto the concert for entertainment. And I believe that's where the bomb went off.
All right, we would like to not say that this is a bomb because we don't know that yet. I know you said it had a bomb-like sound to you, but no one has confirmed for us just what this explosion has been. Then what happened? What did you do?
Then I just grabbed the people I was with, and we ran off the street, and the police directed us off the main, out of the park, and onto the street, and just made way for ambulances and vehicles to approach.
How did you feel, and how do you feel now?
How do I feel?
Yes.
That it could be Olympic-related. Of course, there's no evidence of that. But I know that the military has played a tremendous role. 10,000 military troops are involved in the security arrangements here. Everyone from the very elite Delta Force and Navy SEAL